There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Push to Talk. You are here with us on the 20th of July, 2024. We have Erik. He's wearing tie-dye.
Red, white, and blue, baby.
Red, white, and blue tie-dye. That has absolutely no, correlation to anything that we're talking about in terms of nullsec. So,
he just loves France so much.
I love no, this is not a white shirt. Okay, it's not a white shirt. It's really red, white, and blue. Okay.
We also have and as you heard, we also have Phantomite, and you can see him down below. And we have Slothwhistle here today. Welcome, everybody.
This is not a tie-dye. Who said this isn't a tie-dye?
It looks like tie-dye to me. It's circular. Yeah. It's got bleeding colors.
Mm.
Absolutely. By the way, the only reason I did this because they look so cool. When I was on vacation, 4th of July, my favorite pizza shop was celebrating its 40th anniversary being in business. Nice. It just happens to be a you're almost in Savannah, Georgia, and it's a Pittsburgh pizza shop. So we
I didn't know Domino's had been around for that long.
Yeah, no, Domino's is no, that's not real pizza. So I told my wife that, since I lost a ton of weight and I fit into shirts that you can buy places now, I wanted the shirt and she bought it for me. So it's really cool. It has really cool design on the back, but I can't show it.
I understood that you fit into 2 shirts now instead of 3.
Yeah. 2 dos. But it's any of our fans are ever in Hilton Head, it's Giuseppe's, not the one in Sea Pine, it's the one in Shelter Cove. It's awesome, great pizza. By the way, buy a wedgie. They're awesome. I know that sounds weird, but hey, it's a sandwich. And I'm drinking a lot of coffee, and as the rest of the hosts on the show know, this is my second day at my home residence here in
all of July. In all of July, we've had 20 days of July. We've had 20 days of July so far, and he's only been at home for 2 of them.
And I'll be home Sunday. Yeah, I'll be home Sunday tomorrow, and then I will be gone until next Friday.
Oh.
Yeah. So I missed you all. I could have been playing in our club championship, little golf today, but I said, you know what? I gotta be with my friends.
Hey,
here I am. That's true. I was like, man, I miss doing the show. It's been too many weeks of vacation, and stuff like that. No, I wasn't on vacation last week. That was work travel, and I did not get cloud striked. Amazingly,
I was about to say, how did
cloud strike impact?
What on your service and your kind of your job? It didn't affect you.
It did not. Not at all. No, not our work. Not logging in. Not anything. Not. We weren't. Our customers were. I got out of a big meeting yesterday because a customer was cloud strike. But hey,
oof.
Linux is your friend.
Unless you're trying to support end users who have no idea what they're doing. At which point you definitely want them using Windows because you do not want the questions.
Hey, I'm a Windows user. So hey, welcome. Thank you. Cloud, thank you for doing a wonderful job while I was away.
Hey, no worries.
You're awesome. Thank you. And I noticed your screen is set up a little different than mine. I kind of like that. I have to switch.
It's a little. Actually, I've been meaning to sort of change the little push to talk bubbles, Discord bubbles on the left hand side there to sort of be voice activation only. But I just every single time that we're kind of setting up, I'm thinking other things, and then I see it and I'm like, I should have changed that. God damn it.
No, I like it. No, it looks good.
Good. It's good until someone like Dawn comes and then it starts. Nothing on you, Dawn. Like it's just my setup that I have at the moment, and it's kind of like starting to show its awkwardness.
Did you say her name 3 times, and then she appeared?
I did not. No. This was just
trying to figure out if she's related to Beetlejuice or not.
No, not at all. I'm certain of it. Hey, Dawn, how are you? She's still waking up. either that or somehow her cat has actually like, activated and turned on her.
Currently biting the microphone.
Something like that.
Okay. I'm just gonna say, what the fuck is Dirk doing in staff only? But he's not actually on air. Like he's giving people shit. Dirk is giving people shit.
He's on his phone on Discord, but like he's not actually here on Discord. Like, and Dawn apparently is in the car with children, so she can't exactly speak at the moment, which is fair enough.
Okay, so no swearing, anybody. No swearing.
Yeah, no swearing.
That might be a little bit difficult for this show, so who knows?
By the way, on the flight home, I felt really bad for the one mom who had the one baby, because that baby decided to scream all the way home.
Oof.
And by the way, nobody is more annoyed on a plane, by the way, than the mom of the baby who is screaming, because she feels so bad, I'm sure. But
because they're both irritated and mortified at the same time.
No. But having a wife who flew with kids, I'm like, I know they feel horrible about having a screaming kid on a flight and annoying everyone. They get very.
Yeah, that's what people.
Yeah. So the little babies are going to cry in flights, man. It's the way it is. So
like last time I flew, the guy sitting next to me was the size 4'2" chest. So yeah. And remember, I'm pretty tall, so I already have some issues fitting into a plane. But yeah, when you have like a 400-pound guy right next to you, yeah, it's not fun.
That would not be fun.
Thankfully, it was a short flight. It was only like an hour.
Yeah, but still. How does that guy even put the seatbelt
on?
Badly.
Seatbelt extension.
Yeah, that's true. There is seatbelt extension. No exit row for that guy. No exit row for that guy.
I sorted out the push-to-talk speaking bubbles for Discord, so we're good. Anyway, despite Dawn being here, she's not going to be active in the conversation as such, but she wants to listen in live as such. But we can get on to talking about Eve if you really wanted to. Don't know if you wanted to.
No,
I think Phantomite's here for the other conversations.
I'd love to.
What's
no, I'm here to. I'm here to, and this might sound like a sarcasm or a joke to begin with, but to say that I'm happy that CCP has reinstated some density in the PvE and the mining.
Yeah.
I mean, truly,
I'm going to remain skeptical on this one, Phantomite. I think you're kind of like setting a trap for us.
Well, not really. I mean, there are, stuff in nullsec has been far too close together for one reason or another for some time at the cores around where everybody lived. But I've been pursuing projection nerfs. I didn't really feel that the game needed both a projection nerf and a density nerf at the same time, because I feel like a projection nerf is a nerf to the PvE sort of several steps down the line, as it is anyway. Quite frankly.
And we need to, like, even now with the 40% bonus that CCP applied, if you ask me, there is still no reason besides I want to play with my friends to go to nullsec. There is nothing that lures players into nullsec.
I mean, not because from a competitive, PvE.
If you want nice mechanics, you don't go to nullsec because half of those you don't interact with, and the other half are as old as Eve. If you want to make money, you don't go to nullsec because you can make more money literally everywhere else. If you want to do production, again, you have to interact with so many systems that you don't have to interact with anywhere else. So why go to nullsec for that?
The only nullsec only kind of production is literally supercaps.
Yeah, and
that's
the only pretty much the only place where you use them is nullsec. So
Yeah. So
the cat bites itself in the tail there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think that, you know, it being unnerfed to some extent is good, but I think that the answer to what do people in nullsec go there for, I think that that's yet to materialize. And I
Yeah.
think that
Yes.
the most obvious thing and encourage CCP to push that towards is more realistic opportunities for actual war with other groups, you know, because
but look,
it's lacking the incentive to do that.
Yeah, if you want to promote war, though, you need to give players something to war over, right?
Yes.
If you can't make money, if you can't do production, then why would you take someone else's space except in spite?
Well,
and the spite is kind of running out.
This in theory, this desire, this is exactly the right desire for us all, right? This desire goes against this unnerfing, because if you want a form of, and I'm not using this word related to the previous and current situation over the last 4 or so years, so let's not get say scarcity. You need a form of scarcity of resources in your own space to want to go and take more of it.
Yes,
and on the face of it, on the face of it, it looks like this pre-unnerfed
kind of
PvE content and mining was meant to be it, but I don't think that was going to be it. You know,
yeah,
I think there needs to be something else.
I'm happy that CCP realized that they overdid it. I just wish that they don't stop there. Because I don't think
we need to make something scarce so that you go and take it from someone else.
I think there's a different
you need to go one step
there.
further. I agree that you need to make something scarce to fight over, but that scarce thing to fight over can't be in abundance in a different space, because then you just go to that different space. You just go to low sec or high sec or wormholes.
So
this is talking about null. Yeah.
There's this whole kind of there's this whole idea of you know, does CCP create, or does CCP sort of like craft Eve into some, or the nullsec areas of Eve into something that, you know, you spread out, you know, you build wide or you build high. I kind of feel like you kind of need a bit of both, but you need to be sort of more into one area than the other. I kind of feel like,
yeah,
you know, like you said, there needs to be a degree of scarcity somewhere for you to sort of be incentivized to go and you know, take more space. But I kind of feel like there needs to be a degree of, you know, a cap on the amount of money or the amount of players that a system or that a group of systems can kind of that there needs to be a capacity, right? And then if the size of your alliance, the size of your group exceeds that capacity, you're incentivized at that point to sort of go and seek more space, right?
We can boil it down to there need to be more people who want something than there is supply of it.
Yeah.
And it has to be, you know, it has to have whatever this is dotted around all of nullsec, so that there is friction on the borders, being like, no, I want that. No, I want that. I mean, that it is how war should be working in Eve. I was very much hoping that passive moons and metanox would spur some of that, and that is yet to be seen fully in null.
Well,
it's clearly working in a weird way in low sec, given that we just had a 2 trillion-isk brawl.
Yeah, that was interesting, right?
Metanox, but obviously there are some different incentives and mindsets in low sec. A 2 trill dread brawl, that metanox wasn't worth it. So
no, it wasn't.
Like the vast majority of that is just people fighting for the sake of fighting. Now it needed that spark to start it, you know, and that's great.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the time, it's the spark that's required, and if you don't have that spark, then it doesn't happen. Like, you know, you know, the what is it, like the platinum moon that Asakai was fought over wasn't really worth that much, but that was the spark that caused it, right?
We got
you could argue that Boat sparked it.
Yeah, he also sparked it by accidentally jumping rather than bridging.
But
You
BTR
know.
happened over an IHOP dropping.
Yeah.
an unpaid bill, but yeah, well, essentially a sudden,
let's call it-
unplanned vulnerability, an unplanned vulnerability.
Quote unquote unplanned. Yes,
Yeah.
Let's call it that.
We've got Serim in the chat here who points out that 2 trillion would have been 300 bill a few years ago. Even if we just decide to go with that number, let's, for sake of argument, call it a 300 bill battle that just went down. That Metanox was not worth it.
Still not
So
worth it.
let's go with that number, but the point still stands.
But yeah, I do want to point out that we used to have something rare that you could find in nullsec that was worth fighting over, and that's moons, R64s, R32s.
Essentially passive mooning, because passive moon mining turns them into alliance level assets rather than individual member money making opportunities, and that's the dynamic that we need to return.
Yeah. Just quickly showing the video from Draconic Slayer on YouTube of the fight, as it were. It was pretty cool, pretty decent. You know.
I'll tell you what, as a side note, I really appreciate when people edit a video like this, like he has, rather than get the fraps file of a 2-hour thing, put it in the timeline, speed it up, and put an audio track on it. That's nothing.
Yeah,
that's
of dubstep or something.
Yeah, this guy, he's put captions. He's edited the video into clips as it progresses. He's given brief explanations as it goes on. He occasionally actually zooms in so you can see some spaceships rather than just the brackets, which is great. One minor criticism I would have is that he has customized the information on his brackets to an extent that basically those are some great brackets for small gang and nano fighting.
Oh yeah, but not
dire brackets for a fleet fight.
They just start dominating the actual screen space after a while.
Something interesting. You mentioned B-R, and you know, I mentioned video editing here. You know, something interesting about the B-R videos is that they all have camera bob on.
Yes,
and it was the day after that CCP added the option into stop camera bob.
Oh really? It was literally the day after.
The day after.
Wow.
The day after, because. I mean, I don't know. I would assume that given it was the day it already had known that they wanted to do it and coded it, right? But they must have seen these videos that millions of people on the internet were watching that were sped up, that had the camera doing a bop at like 8 times speed, and they must have thought, "Oh, damn, this is not it."
The sad thing is that these days, you could remove that with 3 clicks.
You could, but it would also move the UI.
No.
I mean, there might be some AI editing that could handle it, but you would get blurring and artifacts where it was trying to keep the UI in the same place.
I mean, I'm also a fan of recording things without the UI.
I mean,
if you've seen Anger Games, you know how deep we go into to make it look just right.
I mean, I recorded the mass test that we had that CCP did, you know, a week and a bit ago, almost 2 weeks ago actually, and that without any, you know, without UI, just sort of, you know, flying around with a 3D mouse. I just thought, you know, I'll chuck it up on YouTube, see where it goes, and it's like, you know, 1,000+ views later on. Like, fucking hell. So, decent.
I thought this was the no swear show.
Oh no, Dawn has headphones in, so it's good. We can swear. We can say fuck or bugger.
Yeah.
Maybe throw in a few cunts.
Well, because we are all
Dead.
independent human beings with our own thoughts and desires. We could also choose not to.
We can also choose not to. Exactly. We can keep certain segments of this show, PG or you.
I'm sorry,
Rated.
but people whose first language isn't English are more prone to swearing. So it's not my fault. It's just that I'm German.
Okay.
Okay. Well, fuck.
I'm not making this up.
Fuck all that. Let's swear. Fuck it. Let's swear.
I'm not making that up, by the way. There's actual studies about that.
Actual studies.
Actual studies, like real studies, not those
not those fake studies that you
native
get.
speakers.
We're going to make a study to find what we want to find. Study, right?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Like
we've already
just
decided on the conclusion. We just need to find the data to actually back that up.
We are being paid to find the conclusion.
Oh yes, those as well.
No. You are prepaid for the conclusion that you will find later. That's how you do it.
Yes.
Here's an interesting question, right? This 2 trill fight. Let's go with the number that was listed in chat just as an example, whether it's accurate or not.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that 2 trill would have been 300 bill in the past. Does that mean that a few years in the past, the parties would have brought like 6 times as much stuff by value? Because they were happy with 2 trill. They were happy enough to do it with 2 trill.
You see, the thing is, I'm always kind of wondering about that, whether it's a case of they're happy with 2 trill or whether it was a case of they threw caution to the wind and just threw what they felt was an unnecessarily large amount of, firepower into there as a means of overwhelming, and then they didn't realize that the other side did exactly the same.
I mean, realistically here as well, we've got to look at inflation, assuming it's a relatively stable inflation where both wages or income in Eve and the cost of all the goods goes up at the same rate, then really nothing has changed if inflation has been steady for all of those factors. It's just the number is bigger, but it costs the same. It's like, for example, Plex always costs the same over 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a measure of how much effort you're willing to put in. And it goes up in line with the income sources in Eve.
Very true. I mean, these dread fights that I've noticed, compared to, say, if you go jump back like 5 years, for example, there's a lot more usage of faction and faction dreads.
Well, it's almost
over regular
exclusively.
dreads. Like,
it's almost exclusively. There's no sort of question about it. That these Anitras and particularly the Rev navies, for obvious reasons, it's just been a power creep. It hasn't really changed anything.
It hasn't changed too much. There's been a bit of a power creep, but like what you get out of it is something like, and this is the reason why you see them fielded, is what you get out of it for the price that it costs is a viable option, or it is something that is worthwhile actually doing, right? Because you get way more hit points, you get more damage, and it's one of those things. I think you get a little bit more damage. Well, like
you definitely get an extra utility high.
There's one big factor missing there. Especially low sec has a limited amount of pilots, right? It's not like null sec where we have these tie-dye fights where you literally can't put any more people into the system. You are limited as to how many people are on grid, and therefore it makes sense to field these higher end ships, because you just get more out of each pilot.
Yeah, it's like how it's how one of the reasons why Rooks and Kings ran like things like Golden Fleet, right? They put the money out there, not because they had the money, but because they were maximizing the capability of their pilots.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I mean, we all do that to some extent. Even if you're in Goonswarm Federation, you're not going to hobble your pilots because I've got enough. I'm not gonna squeeze another 10% out of them by modifying this ship, Yeah. But I get what you mean, yeah.
You're not putting supers out there without the implants to back them up, right?
with T2 tanks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not entirely true.
Hey,
Go on.
horrendous.
So just, as the guy who designed fleets for Goonswarm for many years, yeah, we didn't always optimize like that, simply because we had to worry about what can people actually use. So a lot of the time it was, a lot of the time we did in fact not get that last 10%, just because this is too ridiculously expensive for most people, or
It's also a fact of trying to actually source supply, right?
If it excludes more pilots than it actually gives you back in power,
Exactly.
then it's not worth it.
Because the last thing you want is like, and we saw this in nullsec, right? When we had the TFI meta, right? It was a case of, well, we can't run this,
especially the first time.
right? You're right, and it was just like, oh, let's go, like, we whelped a couple of fleets, like go buy some more fleets.
We've lost 600 TFIs in an hour. We can't replace that, can we? Nope.
Exactly.
So if we look at the cost part of it that you mentioned here, there are rapidly diminishing returns in terms of the price of better gear. An energized multi-spec that costs 700 million ISK isn't 700 times better than a T2 one that costs a million ISK. Yeah,
exactly. It's why the ships that I flew in any given doctrine never got reimbursed.
Now, this brings this brings me to something that I've thought about for a while. But now that because you're here, I think it make a good conversation. At the beginning of scarcity, and I don't want to bring that all up again, but somebody was in my Discord was talking about the fact that in this example, the Macarial was much more expensive than it previously was. And this is before the T1 battleship prices went up as well.
Right.
But they said the phrase they used was that I don't want to fly a Tech 1 battleship. I want to fly the Macarial. I shouldn't be denied from flying, his words, only the poggest ships. Right, and that became
I never used those words.
No, it was somebody else. It was somebody else. He said
with them,
basically it boiled down to he felt that it was that he deserved to fly the top end exclusively.
My man,
I sympathize.
I mean,
I really can.
Don't we all want to really do that? But what would it mean if everybody just flew the best stuff?
A lot more interesting fights, that's for sure.
There'd be interesting fights, but then it would just be a case of
in that case, it would have meant, especially during scarcity, it would have meant the Russians made a lot more money.
That's true.
I mean, it's essentially, that particular ship aside, is that not a textbook case of if everybody is super, then nobody is?
It is kind of that sort of sense.
I don't think so.
No.
Why not?
Because you don't just want to fly. No, look, you don't just want to fly the Macarial because it's a good ship, right? There's also the style.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. There's an element of style there too. So that's not just I want to be better than everybody else. It's no, I just want to look good doing it.
It's not even about being better than everybody else. I mean, if everybody is now considering that it's a lot more painful to lose such a ship, then you're all going down at the same time in terms of your expectations for what you will be flying. As it gets cheaper, everybody can afford it. As it gets more expensive,
I mean, that's exactly how the scarcity nonsense affected supers and titans. As soon as they became more expensive to build than anybody would buy, nobody was willing to use them.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? So,
And for good
I mean, do we all feel that buying an A-type energized multi-spec at 700 mil, it's fair that it's not 700 times better than a T2? Do we think that
yeah.
that's fine?
Yeah, because it's not just about whether it's
why
good.
do we feel any different? Why do we feel any different about the capabilities of, at the time? I know it's that largely most people will have moved to the Tempest Fleet issue as their artillery armor platform, but the Macarial supply,
because the supply is
more.
The supply is so much there.
But let's say back then the Macarial, in fact today it's the same as well. I just looked at the market. The Macarial cost basically twice as much as the Tempest Fleet issue.
Right.
And the complaint, but before that change, the Macarial was basically roughly the same price as a Tempest Fleet issue.
Right.
Except it was in the meta at the time. It was better.
Sure.
I'd argue it's still better than the Tempest Fleet issue.
Sure, there are things you might want to it's give and take between the two of them, but if it's better, then why shouldn't it be twice the price?
Because of
I mean, we're okay with the A-type multi-specs being 700 times more expensive than the T2.
Sure, but it's a lot easier to get a T2.
I also feel like there's a lot of variation and sort of options that you can have rather than just the A-type. That's afforded to you that you can kind of go with.
Also,
right. But like the T2
why,
can be mass produced.
You got to look at why we got there, right? What was the reason for CCP to lower the spawn rate of the BPC? And the
was
reason
that what made the price go up? Was it not a different thing?
That's what made the price go up. Yes.
Yep. Sure, it wasn't
they changed. They changed how the BPCs drop. And that's when the price skyrocketed. It actually increased 5 times. I know because I was sitting there buying them to resell them at a higher price.
I was going to say,
it is his favorite.
On the timing of the Macarial prices, you can trust off on this one. It's the only thing that freaking flies.
Look, so yes, CCP changed how the BPC drops, and that's how the price increased a lot.
Sure. So it's a demand-driven price increase.
That was done because at the time the Macarial was just so good. Because of the refitting mechanics, right? You could still refit in combat, and to bring it back in line with other ships, CCP increased the price basically, right? Through touching the spawn rate. Yeah. That is no longer necessary because they changed how refitting in combat works. When you have a timer, you can no longer refit. So that also brought the Macarial back in line, so it got double nerfed.
So, are we advocating here for the Macarial should cost the same as a Tempest Fleet issue?
Maybe not the same, but not as much more as it is yet now. Like I would say,
it's double now. It's double for argument's
I would say 20% more. That would be healthy.
How much better is the Macarial than the Tempest Fleet issue in today's meta?
That really depends what you're doing with it. If you're doing fleet stuff with it, you could argue that they are on par. But if you are doing roaming with it, for example, anything where your warp speed matters, the Macarial is just vastly better.
Yeah,
okay,
that's the big intangible, is not how well the ship performs in combat, but how long does it take me to get to the fight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
get to the fight, land on grid, get out, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big enough issue. That's a big enough issue that CCP changed the warp speed on everything.
Especially landing on grid as well, especially for a battleship, that is extremely important in nullsec specifically. That is.
And it's not just the Macarial. Like, how many Cinebolts do you see these days?
Oh, that's because it's crap.
No, the Cinebolt used to be so much fun for cruiser runs and destroyer runs.
Then every other ship in the game moved onwards and it stayed in the same place.
Yeah, and increased in price.
But it's garbage. It's not
really
entirely garbage. It's not entirely garbage, but it's
it
really
has its
not a great
place.
choice in a lot of places.
It needs the angels to go in and kind of tweak it around a bit and sort of make it a little bit better.
Look,
Yeah.
you need to fly the Cinnabal like a hit and run ship, right? You were there to get the attention of the enemy fleet and then to get the fuck out of range, and then you do it all over again.
To pull the group apart, right?
Yeah. Because people will see, oh, Cinnabal, shiny. I'm going to shoot that and not this caracal.
Yeah, it also doesn't have any hit points, and it's fast, but it's not that fast in the cruiser meta that exists currently.
Yes.
And it does, and it's meant to be a ship that you use with like barrage and fall off, but it's not even that long.
Well, the other difference between the effects of the warp speed stuff for the Cinnabal and everything else. So you've got a battleship fleet, right? Your support ships are not battleships. So the battleship is what's slowing you down. When you've got a cruiser fleet, the Cinnabal doesn't get to, actually travel any faster with the fleet because the rest of the fleet is also cruisers.
Oh yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
No,
But
even on a grid, it's compared to other cruisers. It's relatively fast. It's relatively nimble, and it has relatively good range.
I used to run it in jackdaw fleets.
You used to used to run them in snatch fleets, but snatch fleets are a sort of.
I hate that name.
That's a British
yeah, that's an issue for Brits there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was a good movie. So
it is a good movie. And to be fair to the doctrine and the usage of that doctrine, it is well named. It's just it has another connotation. That's all. But yeah, when
it does.
Let's leave it.
Amazingly enough,
I don't think we can repeat that here.
Yeah, don't Google it outside of incognito mode.
In other news,
not unless you're Australian.
Mac sent me to a website today to buy some fans because it's super hot here.
Yeah, there was a site that I sent him to.
Yeah. Apparently they have a lot of fans.
Is that all they sell?
It is all that they sell.
That's all they sell, apparently. But I kind of feel like I got scammed because I didn't get any fans. I only got nudes.
Was it Brisk's nudes?
So what you're saying?
Too, yes.
So what you're saying is it didn't exactly cool you off.
No.
Yeah, it got you a little bit too hot.
Like, especially
it got you hot under the collar.
I mean, if you get the wrong nudes, that could cool you off quick.
See, this is the Phantomite. This is the kind of tangents that we do. By the way,
I know.
I actually
this isn't a face of surprise. It's a face of resignation.
just bitter disappointment.
Yeah,
you had to go down the smut route.
Honestly, times like this, I find a quote from Cyberpunk 2077 to be the most useful.
Oh,
yeah.
This is my face of total unfucking surprise.
Yeah. So should we actually get into?
Hold on. Let's go back a few steps. What's going to get?
That works a whole lot better for Windows on.
What's going to make you go to real war? We need a purpose. It hasn't been put in the game yet. What purpose should it be? What's going to make you go to war?
The best wars are the ones that have absolutely nothing to do with game mechanics or resources. It's purely a blood feud or a drama feud or spite.
Okay.
Yeah. That's normally it.
What's going to cause a rift? What does somebody need to do to create war in this game? What do they need to say? Who do they need to insult?
No, just be Billy.
I've never.
He's not here. You got to find somebody else.
Billy to do something.
I don't think Billy's got the juice now.
Well, the real Billy, please stand up.
I've never really liked McLeod.
Yeah,
these
well,
years.
you know, I think your tie-dye shirt sucks.
And you know what? Let me clarify.
You
as
know
well.
what?
Let
But
me
the
clarify.
pizza is phenomenal.
What's going to make the blocks go to actual war and not just a 1 month glassing campaign on the fringes of space?
What do you mean? You need another
Well,
17-month war?
the
One
glassing,
wasn't enough for you?
So the glassing campaign, right?
Hold on. Eric.
Yeah.
How long has it been since the 2020 war?
Well, you know, when you go
It's been a while.
for 17 months, you gotta rebuild
At
and
this
do
point,
other things.
about 3 years.
What kind of video game is this where you want to not do the point of the game for 3 years between wars?
The thing is that the blocks are entrenched, right? And not only do they not have any reason to go to war, it's also that if they do go to war, they fuck themselves, right?
Yeah.
So what needs to happen?
They can't build back up. What they need is more resources. If you give Null more resources, and I know Phantomite is going to hate this.
Null all the resources before scarcity.
Hold up.
And we had lots of rando fights.
Let's just keep something in mind here, though. Okay, you're talking about, you know, not play the game, not do the point of the game for 3 years. Just because the end of the 2020-2021 war was, you know, 3 years ago, doesn't mean there wasn't war. Like, because the different blocks went straight from that into the stuff against Constantine the whatever in the East, Frat dealing with Brave and their friends in Declan and stuff. And
Yeah.
there were constant long-term campaigns going on for at least another 18 months. So even though
And what really changed?
but that's not the point.
Yeah.
That's not the point at all. The point isn't what changed. The point is, after 18 months or 14 months of constant combat, you still had 18 more months of constant combat where nobody actually got to take a break, where nobody actually got to recharge at all. There's a reason that's when I quit. So people need time to actually want to play the game again, as opposed to, Jesus Christ, I have to get up at 4 a.m. again for another goddamn fleet. I mean,
Well, and that's a misnomer, right? That's a misnomer that there always has to be a fight to play the game. Eve is many things, right? And, you know, you don't constantly want to be at war. Fighting and skirmishes are one thing, right? But you don't constantly need massive wars. Or, and by the way, CCP
there has to be this kind
CCP, yeah.
There has to be the sort of like balance point where people aren't like don't have the huge amount of resources to sort of just literally be going on war 24/7.
No, sure.
But also, you know, don't have to feel like they can't go on wars at all because they don't have the resources to be able to sustain any kind of war, right? So there needs to be the sort
is
of
that not
point
just a
as to
question
which
of overthinking how much you need to be able to go to war? Because the enemy is facing the same mineral
exactly
constraints as you.
But that's the thing. You need to
lower the bar to
you
what
need to be able to figure out, like, do I have more, like, you know, combat like some like a war stamina than my competitor, you know? And that should be the sort of thing that calculates whether, you know, you go to war or not, really, to be fair, like on the most, like at the highest level, right, in terms of
at the same
strategic
time,
planning.
Though, there's a difference between going to war and going to fights.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're not when you're going out to you know, get fights and have fun, that's, you know, that's when you want, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to meet a force that is satisfying to overcome, and we're going to beat them, or they're going to beat us, and even if they beat us, we're still going to have fun.
Can I dissect one part of that for a second? What makes it satisfying to beat them?
that they are in fact a challenge, and it is difficult.
Yeah,
I mean, they are. I mean, they're under the same constraints.
Yes, I know that's
as you. So
right,
just lower the ships that you're doing it.
That doesn't mean that pushing over tests for the
Shut up.
20th time is fun.
Shut up a second. Except what you're missing there is that's not going to war. That's going for fights. When you're going to war, your objective is, I want to win this campaign. If possible, I want to steamroll them. I don't care about fun. I have an objective here.
So war isn't fun.
To some degree,
war is a lot more work than fun.
Yeah,
right.
Like when you're looking at the amount of workload that people have to deal with when they actually go to war. Like,
all right. Well, this goes back to the idea that
you have to do when.
Soft, I think it was you a minute ago that said
as
that
a line member,
the groups are too entrenched.
Yes.
So how do we unentrench them? What needs changing to unentrench?
Again, you need to give them the resources so they can go, oh yeah, we can comfortably go for another 6 month, 9 month, 12-month campaign.
To unentrench the blocks, all you need to change is human nature.
That's all.
All the rules of the game
no matter,
that we've got.
No,
well, the thing is, what you're saying is there is to unentrench.
It doesn't matter how you change the rules of the game. People have their stuff that they've worked for, and they don't want to lose it.
Yeah,
that sounds like EVE Online players. Then it sounds like asset accumulators.
You're talking about like when I hear sort of like
EVE Online
unentrench somebody, like it's basically making somebody homeless, right? Like
EVE Online, especially in nullsec, is a nation-state simulator.
Yeah.
People have their shit, they don't want to lose it. They have their home, they don't want to lose it.
The only thing that should unentrench a player group is another player group, not mechanics.
We are all using the mechanics here. I'm not asking for the game to unentrench people. I'm asking for the game to be changed so that people have a genuine opportunity, if they employ their skill as a large group, to go and unentrench one or the other.
Yeah, again,
and it requires something. So there's a lot of things that happen.
Again, put something into nullsec that will only be available in nullsec.
There's a lot of things that happen that I've seen, like, you know, playing EVE in null groups, that like I've seen player groups get unentrenched, and most of the time the player groups that get unentrenched are the other groups that have stayed in the same position for a long period of time, but have not incentivized their group to go out and do PvE for the benefit of the group, but just for the benefit of their own players. Like, to some degree, when you have been in a position like, for example, IRC in Cobalt Edge, right? This is obviously going back some, right? But if you have a group that's been in a same place for a long period of time, right, like IRC was in Cobalt Edge, right? If you have an aggressor coming in and and contesting the area, right, you expect that group to be able to dig down deep on all of the resources that they've been able to sort of accumulate over the long period of time that they've had to be able to maintain and keep that area. Now, when that actually happened, and IRC space in Cobalt Edge was actually contested, they folded so fucking fast because they didn't actually do that. That is what, you should kind of look at as a sort of a case in point as to whether a group should be unentrenched or whether it shouldn't, right? As to how much and how
it should be a measure of how much effort one side is willing to put in, and the higher effort side should win.
Yes.
The other thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind here is that by and large, the large blocks we see now in nullsec aren't just the people who have put in the effort. It's the people who have spent 10 years or more figuring out at every change, what do we need to do to avoid being kicked out? How do we defend ourselves? And so you're basically dealing with, people who have, whatever rules you throw at them, they're going to quickly look at them and go, all right, how can people exploit these against us? How do we stop that? And then they do that.
Can I Mac, can you?
You mean the game mechanics actually rewarding people to adapt so that they can save the shit that they've been building for years?
Mac, can you put text on the screen?
Basically.
I can yes, to some degree. Why? What's up?
Before I ask you to put a piece of text on the screen, can I just ask again? Do we feel that nullsec large groups are too entrenched at the moment?
Well, first of all, I'm going to ask you something, right? Should the game never allow a group to ever entrench itself in space that they can win and defend?
This is a sliding scale. I said, are we too entrenched?
No.
There is always going to be. No,
So
it's not binary. It is not binary.
No, it is.
So Phantomite.
Hold on. Let me explain why. Right? Because if a group can become too entrenched, right? That's what you're saying. Too entrenched. Number one, you have to define what that is and how long a group should be allowed to be in a space or even in nullsec.
Okay.
Before they should.
I will define it for you.
Right?
I will define it for you. Do you want me to define it for you?
Yeah, go for it.
Please do.
What is too entrenched? Too entrenched is a time period where neither side has the resources to have a good chance of unentrenching the other. And I believe that this is what you agree we're currently at. The resources are currently means that the people are too entrenched, because there is not the resources there for an attacker to have a good chance of unseating somebody. Is that right?
Yeah, because they have too much historical resources, right? All the stuff before scarcity.
I just want to get to. I want to.
I'm gonna say.
Are we too entrenched right now?
I'm gonna say no.
Wrong.
If that's
you're all wrong. You're all wrong. And here's why. Why will Group A not fight Group B? Because if they exhaust their resources fighting Group B, then they can't defend what they've spent years building. And a third-party group can then come in and take them out, even if they took the other group out. Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, that's
are we currently too entrenched?
No.
So why aren't you going to war to unseat the people who aren't too entrenched?
Because again, we can afford to entrench them, but then we can't afford.
So they are too entrenched because you can't afford to unentrench them.
No, we can afford to entrench them. We just can't afford to then defend our space afterwards.
Against who? There's only two groups.
No.
First off, there's definitely more than two groups.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's not that we're not going to war, therefore we're too entrenched. We're not going to war because, quite honestly, it's not worth the effort right now.
There's nothing there that you want to take because you got it all.
No. It's not worth the effort. It's not
even if there's something that you want.
Hours and hours of meetings. It's not worth all of the planning. It's not worth all of the goddamn additional stress that has nothing to do with resources or fights. It's not worth the effort right now.
Hold on. So their defensive capabilities are too high compared to your available in-game and time resources.
No, that's not it either.
I do see where you're kind of trying to get this to the, we'll admit that we're too entrenched, but like, you can't
tell me that war isn't worth going to and then say that you're not too entrenched at the same time.
Yes, you can. You can absolutely say that.
It's not a matter of entrenchment.
Yeah, I mean,
you're telling me in effect that, God damn it, I don't feel like swimming across this river means that anybody on the other side of the river is too entrenched.
I think
just being across the river, just having this additional level of effort, which is what I'm talking about with it's too much work right now.
Yeah, the effort involved to do it is too much. I agree with you.
Entrenchment. That's not entrenchment because everybody's facing that.
It's called lack of incentive.
That's like saying I'm too entrenched because I live at the bottom of a goddamn hill.
So they need something that you want to go and take, right?
No.
What?
It's not about wanting to go and take their stuff.
Do you just not want to fight?
It's very rare that fights occur
I'm trying to find a
because
reason
of, like,
that you don't go and do it. I'm trying to get you to tell me the reason you're not doing it. There must be a reason.
most of the time it's due to feuds. Most of the time it's not a resource thing.
It's not really over stuff. It's over
Most
people.
of the time it's over people. It's over egos.
Yeah, but if you look at the feuds and
the very
how they
few times
happen,
that it has been was the
it
family.
usually was over stuff.
Right. Well, sometimes it's over stuff. Sometimes it's over ego.
Yeah, unless it's Villy, then it's over ego.
So, I mean,
There's been a lot more. Like, I mean,
he's not the only
IT,
one who's had
like,
a mad
the max
ego
campaigns,
problem.
were definitely ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I
Right?
never started any wars though.
yeah.
For fuck's sake, Tess started a war 1 year over shit that happened at FanFest.
So what can we do to make people piss each other off? What can we do?
Make them not know one another anymore. Make them not have known one another for 15 years.
Look,
Eventually, you get tired of fighting your friends.
Half the reason why Tess turned around and decided to declare war on Imperium was due to the fact that in it, you know, we had a non-invasion pact, but it didn't mean that we weren't allowed to sort of take wormholes and go and dunk on their ships in space. And in it did that quite heavily, and they got pretty fucking pissed off about it all the time. So, you know, one of the reasons for a feud to occur is for, players to be constantly having the opportunity to go and murder each other, and murder, large
people
and
off.
murder large sort of things and piss people off. Yeah. So,
But yeah, it's the piss people off part that drives the larger war.
Yeah. So what can we do to create
people
allow us to put more larger things in space? That means when people lose it, they get pissed off,
and get rid of
which we don't have at the moment, right? Phantomite, you know this. We don't really have that. Like, just to some degree, yeah, we do have like raw calls in space, and every so often somebody does do a dumb thing and undocks a super and goes and uses it in a PvE
Yeah, but at this
site,
point the Rorquals,
right? But, like,
at this point the Rorquals are just support ships, right? Like they're
well,
basically so
to some degree in certain places, yeah. But it's
I think
infrequent, and it's
also-
not really something that you can guarantee on every single time. So,
right.
I think we also need to get rid of the abundance of information.
Oh, good grief! Yes,
there is
absolutely good grief.
the abundance of information thing has always been a
Which
fucking
abundance
issue.
of information? Because if you ask two different people, you're going to get 10 different responses.
It's
Yes.
the it's the ESI endpoints that people are able to collate and create like information that people can just go to on a website and find out. Oh, this is a good system to go and fly into and see.
Right. That I'll agree with.
This guy looks sketchy. He's probably
As well as Eve kill mails, I kind of fully feel like Eve kill mails should be something that you get a small amount of information from, but if you hold the field and you're able to actually go to that wreck and actually pick something from that wreck out, you can actually get a larger amount of information about that that kill.
Which
you want
year
doc tags for Eve?
Hold on. Which year did you start playing, Mac?
2009.
Okay, so I believe it was roughly around that time. So I don't know if you saw it or not, but kill mails that there were several different things about kill mails. We'll ignore the fact that you had to manually post them until around that time as well.
Yeah.
But kill mails used to only display the modules that had been destroyed.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
I did
So
not. I think
was-
that
there-
must have. Yeah, that must have
there
changed.
was an element. It wasn't full mystery about people's fittings, but there was an element of mystery about how ships were fitted.
The ones that were destroyed or the ones that survived?
The ones that were destroyed.
That makes no sense.
So, exactly like you said, Mac, there used to be available two halves of the puzzle. You could look in the wreck for one half of the puzzle, and you could look at the kill mail for the other half of the puzzle. So you could put the two together, and of course, only generally kind of one person got that first half of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It wasn't just posted as a sure thing. I think that
That's ridiculous. It should only be the second half of the puzzle.
See,
I mean, think about it. Think about it. When
well,
you're
you
reporting
shouldn't.
what
You shouldn't.
what
As a
happened
person
here,
who killed something, you shouldn't know what things destroyed, right?
Right.
But if you go and you actually salvage the wreck,
listen,
right, you should be able to determine
idea.
But specific society,
what
yes,
the
it was
ship
partially
had.
You get the idea. Now,
the concern I have is that a lot of the time that people, we need to get rid of the easily available information. There's too much information available. A lot of the time what people are complaining about, especially people who are not actually living in nullsec, and this is not a shot at you or anything, Phantomite, it's just, you know, what I've heard from a lot of people who come into nullsec to hunt, is what they're actually complaining about is the ability for people to go, hey, Bob, somebody just came into this system.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about.
But that's what a lot of other people are, so I think it's worth clarifying that.
I think it's such a. I think that this idea about instant, people appearing instantly in local, or the arguments surrounding the blackout and things like that. I perhaps surprisingly for somebody with views like me, I think that's all a red herring, right? Because I don't see any profit in going after ratters and miners,
Right.
It's like,
but
that's not who I'm here to fight.
I'm not talking about people instantly appearing in local. I'm talking about the ability of players to tell other players that, hey, these guys just came in through this system and left through that gate.
Well, I think this is actually an example of where lack of intel is working, because there is a lack of intel in that everybody in the alliance can't just see the entire region's local, right? So they are putting the effort in to disseminate that information, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, but
that's an effort versus reward thing.
And I appreciate that you do, but I have heard it from a lot of people who come in from lowsec to hunt that no, that's not
the choir here, unfortunately.
Right.
So I think that maybe we can agree that the majority of this too much information is CCP provided information.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
provided information.
I think it's too much low effort information.
There's also things that may not be quite obvious in terms of the amount of information that we get is being quite bad, is sort of even things like the industrial index, right? That CCP just provides you with an M4. That kind of stuff, that sort of stuff basically can inform people almost automatically as to whether
I think that's snitching,
supers and stuff like that are being built. Right?
That's snitching. It's taking away the player agency to keep secrets.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest, when you're talking about something like EVE Online, you want more player agency rather than less.
This game needs a lot more secrets.
Yeah, more secrets.
I think we could all probably come up with a lot of 1,000 small individual things that make up this whole thing. Yeah,
I can give you a big one. You remember how CO2 actually switched side at a pivotal moment because they were super mad at the CFC. That happened because people inside CO2 and pretty high up were actually stealing from the Alliance. And so the leadership thought that they were getting shafted by the coalition. They didn't think about, maybe someone is stealing from us. They went, oh no, goons are not giving us our fair share. And that's why they flipped. There were a few other things, but that was the one major point that pushed them over, right? So yeah, cool. There were secrets there, and that actually unwinded a whole coalition.
I don't want to move away from. I want to say something else about what you said here, but I want to then come back to this kind of thing, right? Is that as well as secrets and too much info, there's not enough. There's not enough requirement of trust as much as there used to be amongst your leadership. This game was. It's almost a natural group size limitation when there are things that you are forced to entrust to people, because the bigger you are, it should be that there's the fewer trust-based toys that you can effectively use.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Or can I give you an example?
That makes perfect sense. That's what that's why you have to build a reliable infrastructure, not game-wise, but organizationally. You have to.
Can I give you an example, though?
Sure,
An in-game example.
Absolutely.
So before the Citadel era, before 2016, I mean, I don't need to tell you this, but let's just to get it through the story, you needed to put super carriers and titans inside a pos. That's where they lived. That's where they staged from, because they couldn't stage in a keep start and they couldn't tether on a lesser Citadel. Okay, so that meant that when those ships were prepping or about to be in use, or you could say in use, because you'd sit a Titan inside a pos merely for the purpose of bridging as well, obviously. That meant that with coalitions, you had to make a choice. You had to either allow your alliance inside the pos automatically, or you had to make it password based. And then with the password based, you could you wouldn't actually give the password to your membership. You would give the password to a higher circle of people, like the pilots that were there, because quite simply, you could get bumped out if the password was known,
or somebody could be a dick and change it.
Well, that's if they had that power as well. That's another trust-based thing.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes. So that trust-based mechanic. Just go back another step. So what you typically did for bridging was that you put your subcaps on the outside of the shield, and you drove the Titan up to the edge of the shield. So that was a choice. Are we going to be vulnerable, or are we going to force ourselves to trust these people? And that was a brilliant large group, sort of a natural social slowdown as groups grew larger. As groups grow larger, you struggle to be able to trust people as much for obvious reasons.
I'm gonna reframe that slightly. It's not a choice between are we going to be vulnerable or are we going to trust these people. It's which way are we going to be vulnerable?
That's fairer. Yes. No, that's absolutely right. Which way? Who are we going to put at risk here? Are we going to put the fleet at risk, or are we going to put the Titan at risk? Okay.
There is a degree of risk, but then there's also kind of like not a degree of risk, because like, I mean, I'm going to mention a few sort of things that I experienced but this was a little while back. This was probably about sort of 10 years back, right? But like, T-grads would have moments where, as a proponent of Razor, we'd have fights with certain people, and there would be times where, some of our Titan pilots in T-grads would actually offer bridging services to our enemies to go back to wherever they came from.
I've bridged an enemy fleet before after a fight. Yeah. Even in low sec.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it's one of those things where it's like, so there is a degree of risk, yes, but there's also a degree of trust as well, even with enemies.
I mean, I didn't let them inside the pods.
No. You have them out. You have them sidling outside of the shield. Yeah.
On the do you risk the fleet side, just a quick amusing memory. During the Fountain War, right? We had one time where there was a fight brewing, and fleets were rushing in to get to the fight, and we had one fleet being run by Boat sitting on Boat's Titan at a pause. Everybody's huddled up against the shield, right? And we get bombed by just this small gang of idiots in bombers, right?
Of chance takers in bombers.
Right. Yeah. But because we're just sitting on the Titan, nobody's got their hardeners on. Nobody's thinking it all defensively because we're in safe space. We're on the Titan. We're about to get bridged, so there's no point having all this stuff running anyway. We get bombed to like maybe just below 50% health in a lot of ships.
Awesome.
Right? Everybody gets all pissed off and screaming. Boat warps the fleet off. Right. The tackle runs around the system while the fleet is bouncing between Celestials, and because we're constantly warping, nobody's got any time to do anything as far as repairs, right? And it's an armor fleet, so the shields don't matter. There's no natural regen. We get right. Finally, everything calms down. We get back on the Titan, and they bomb us again, and the fleet has to go home.
Yeah. So I mean, essentially,
that was
this
fun.
is great. Exactly. Do you know what? I think that we've not just this example of trust with POSes, but this whole too much information, and then I guess I'm trying to segue it into
and too much
trust-based mechanics. I think we're all on board with maybe not reverting to exactly how it was, but we need large-scale trust-based mechanics to make a return to the game. We've got a guy in chat. He says, hold on, this guy in chat, he says, there was no choice with POSes. Password was not given out to the fleet because that was suicidal. Right. That is a choice. That is a choice.
It's just a choice. It's just not a choice you're making.
Yeah. It's mate, if you can't trust your own fleet, I feel sorry for you, but that is your problem.
You can even use it aggressively. There was this one time where Forgot Legend was in a Macarial fleet in Delph, and he was kind of skittish, right? He didn't want to lose that Macarial fleet. So what we did was we, quote unquote, accidentally warped half the fleet into a POS and the other fleet got stuck outside. And when his Macarial fleet landed on grid, there was already a Sino up and Supers jumping in. Right?
Wow.
Again, how much information do you have access to? How much can you trust it? And do you act on that information? Right? At that time, Progod only knew half the fleet is outside. I can dunk on them. What he didn't know was we had Supers ready to jump and we had a sign up there. Because we kept that information in a closed circle, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do that on a larger scale because, as we already pointed out, all of that information is now basically public.
Yeah, it's too many people to be able to know them all personally enough to be able to trust them.
Yeah, but we didn't know everyone personally in the bad old days either. We just had assholes.
No, but it certainly was fewer people in the Supers in that story than you would have available now.
I mean, we did know futility, like always keep an eye on that guy.
But that's the one thing. That's the one thing that I think that I would really be leery of if we started to move back to more room for internal suspicion. Is that you wind up going back to the why was the NSA unable to penetrate alliances in EVE? Because we're all a bunch of paranoid bastards who had people actually going and digging through your digital shit.
Yeah, I don't want to. We recently had a Reddit post that alluded to some of that, and it's a bit depressing to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't want people going that far for a game, for fuck's sake.
Right.
No, and it undoubtedly happens. I mean, it's one of those things that we all know goes on. There are enough there are a small number of freaks in this game feel it's okay to go that far, but
they don't know where the line is.
It does not represent the groups that they of as a whole.
No.
Right, but at the same time, a small number of people think it's okay to go that far, and they get results, and so other people rely on them to don't tell me what you're doing. Just do it.
I've seen this in other games as well. It happens in other games, other MMOs as well. People don't know where the line is, and they cross it, or they know that their enemies are going over the line, right? And so that gives them, in their head, a reason to go over the line and justification to go over the line as well. But
I mean, especially in a game like EVE where it's a constant arms race. It's a constant arms race, not just in game terms. Like everything is, how do we outdo those guys?
Yeah.
It does have the eventual. Obviously, this is a game of tens and tens of thousands of people, so when it is a
It's
game of how far are we willing to go. Somebody is inevitably going
Go
to
too far.
sometimes
repeatedly go too far.
Sometimes it gets to the point where a person decides that they're going to travel from Russia to Iceland and go to their consulate and pulls the consulate, a person from the consulate to come to them to the CCP HQ and literally ask Hilmar how much for your fucking game. Because that did happen.
Well, yeah.
Well, the first step is you need to be South Korean.
In short, I have realized that we have very recently regained one big trust-based mechanic to the game.
Oh.
We have regained it, and it is with passive moons, because passive moons essentially means that in practice the materials go to the group rather than to individuals in theory.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been a lot of people on Reddit before Equinox and during now that have said, but this isn't fair. What if the leadership starts skimming off the top? And like that, this is what you meant. This is what you mentioned earlier with CO2, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a brilliant trust-based mechanic. And again, if your problem is out there that you are distrusting of your leadership, that is a you problem. You can just leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's great in terms of a trust-based mechanic. It's ass in terms of, hey, look, free money. Like,
that's a different issue.
Yeah, it is a different issue. Unfortunately, like, those issues need to be balanced. Like, it's.
Are we saying that the value from a Metanox that it pulls in is too small?
I'm not sure. Right now, I suspect the value of literally anything is too small.
I've always been an ardent supporter of active gameplay. Should be the more active the gameplay, the higher the rewards per the amount of time.
But at the same
versus
time,
passive, which should be less.
I have to say, in all honesty, I have no idea about the rewards of the new moon drills because, despite 4 freaking shows on this, we still haven't gotten to cover the goddamn new moon drills, Mac.
Well, Mac, you say that what you're pushing the line, and I believe it's a correct line. That
Thank you.
People in space equals action.
Yes.
Now, counterpoint: 2 trillion-isk dread fight over a Metanox.
True. Very true.
I don't think you're wrong.
Whether that was entirely whether the people going in and dropping those fleets knew like the potential for the cost of the fight, I don't know. Hubris allows people to do dumb things, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, fine. I mean, if hubris accidentally causing large fights is repeatable, turns out to be a repeatable thing, then fine.
There's only 2 things infinite in the universe, right? The universe and human stupidity, and I'm not entirely certain about the universe.
Counterpoint here is, 2 trillion isk dread fight generally means somebody fucked up.
So, it's like, I think I would along with what you said about people in space equals content, I think that it's clear that Metanox will and has removed some of that content, but it has taken with one hand and given with the other, It
is a bit of a compromise, but I think the compromise is fair.
Yeah,
I think it's a good one.
Now, I had an idea. We've got Collapser in chat here who says that a Metanox on an R4 makes 1.3 million-isk a day in profit. I don't know if that's true. I know it is obscenely low. I don't know the exact number. Let's go with that for the moment, for the sake of argument. I very much feel that the Metanox should be hugely cheaper, but then you have to put a certain amount of machinery into it, depending on what R level you want to mine. So, for instance, if you wanted to mine an R4, the gear you put into it should be virtually nothing. And if you want to Metanox an R32 or something, the gear you put into it is more gear. So essentially, the price of a completed Metanox is cheaper for cheaper moons and more expensive for more expensive moons.
Yeah, you upgrade the drill or something like that, right?
Or what you could do is we go back to the old trusted system of if you pay more, you get better defensibility, right? We had small, medium, and large pauses back in the day. Why can't we have multiple versions of the Metanox that is varying degrees of defendable?
I mean, to an extent, it's two sides of the same coin, right? Like, really, if you have a Metanox that doesn't cost much, like say would be the cost of a small moon, like back in the day, like a small pause, right? And the upgrades to that Metanox to make it mine, R16s and R32s or something like that, upwards as a scale, increase the price that you're actually putting in that particular structure to be equivalent to, say, a medium and a large pause. You kind of get that sort of sliding scale without having to have 3 different sizes of Metanox moon drills, right? You basically end up having the same thing, but just in a slightly more compact kind of form.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Metanox should have a range of available fittings like a Citadel does. I mean, the Metanox obviously doesn't have all of the features of a regular Upwell Citadel or EC or Refinery or whatever. It doesn't have, hold on, correct me on this, it doesn't have tether, does it?
I don't think it has tether, no. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have tether. You don't
think you can
dock in it in the same way. You don't dock in it in the same way. Let me just verify that. Well, I think I should verify it if I'm going to be saying it.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't
Citadel.
interacted with it before, so like I wouldn't know.
So it's basically, regardless of which exact features it's got, it's not a Citadel. It is not a place where you can tether and stage and base from like a Citadel or a technically you could stage in a refinery. I know that you wouldn't really necessarily want to do that, but because it doesn't have those features, I think I could get on board with that idea that you should choose, if you want to anchor, simply a fatter Metanox. And maybe you just do that through fittings by adding shield extenders onto it or something. I don't know.
Because really the question is as to whether you're dropping a Metanox or not down or not is whether the cost that you're going to get out of it is going to eclipse the cost of the, well, maybe not the cost of the Metanox itself, but like the running fuel, right? To be fair, if it's making more than the fuel that it costs to sort of keep there, then it's an option, it's viable.
It's certainly an option. I mean, it has to be over a certain amount to be worth your time, as well as just for the cost of the item. But yeah, I mean, basically, my views on the Metanox are: I agree with you that it has taken something away. I feel it has given us something much larger. But I also feel that it has several levers that CCP have put in regards its stats and exactly how it functions. And I would really like to see some of those levers being adjusted in the future to ensure that the Metanox grows as a fleet fight objective in the game.
Well, I have
on a quickly related note, just to double check something that I made a statement about to the staff here privately a couple days ago. Have we gotten that official communication from CCP yet that was promised within a week of Monday?
What was that? What
about? Hold on. I have to sit down before I consider that.
The letter that Asher posted and everything.
Oh, with the response to
it. We're gonna get an official communication within a week. They posted on Monday. So have we gotten that?
About what?
About the economic balances, etc.
I think we did. Yes, in actual fact,
we got the official response.
Yes, we did. I will.
Yeah, I mean,
jump over to.
Didn't it just show up as like a big Reddit, a couple of paragraphs on Reddit being "Hey, we see what you're talking about.
Right,
We'll have a
and in that they promised an official response within a week.
Yeah, the official
not
response
being
was
on
kind of
Reddit, 'cause-
the Equinox
come on.
update, right? So like they literally said, we want to acknowledge the concerns expressed by the community and the CSM regarding the Equinox expansion and associated game changes. And this was basically the update where they sort of they loosened the reins on certain things, allowed more sites to spawn, allowed them to spawn faster. Allowed larger rocks and stuff like that in the mining sites, as well as overall like larger amount of material in those sites, and
good.
the escalation sites of
upped
those being larger as well. So
they basically
Good.
upped the density of these money making activities again.
yeah,
Good.
and they
Okay,
have
just
said
double checking.
they have said that in that particular post that they will continue to refine and adjust stuff in the weeks ahead. So it's not a one and done thing. It's they as far as CCP is concerned, at least in this particular post, they're still looking to further refine it and further tweak it.
It's just that I personally think that in order to bring nullsec back to its old glory, we need more than a few number changes. I'm not saying these number changes are bad. I don't expect them to have a solution tomorrow. But I think CCP needs to rethink how nullsec works.
Well, they need to rethink kind of really what they want nullsec to be, because I kind of feel like nullsec's sort of almost starting to feel a little bit like CCP doesn't know what they want out of it.
Are you saying that CCP is all fart and no poo?
No,
What do you mean starting?
Well, I mean, we always had like fucking way back. We had this that we always used to sort of laugh about the fact that like CCP didn't know what they wanted to do with lowsec, which is why lowsec kind of sucked and didn't really have a purpose or any kind of like super big draw. But like it seems as though they've kind of figured out a little bit as to what they want lowsec to be. But it's sort of the nullsec seems to be in that situation now.
Orion is saying it is up to the players. I absolutely disagree with that. That used to be true, but CCP started interfering in nullsec a lot, starting with the rockroll changes. And again, they were warned about it. And their solution was to interfere even more and more and more, right? So no, like it is no longer up to the players, because CCP are actively trying to push the player base into a certain playstyle, and it seems like they themselves don't know what their playstyle is or supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, we have mentioned in the conversations today, like a whole bunch of different things that I kind of feel is very much may not be specifically nullsec orientated, but will definitely affect nullsec in many different ways, right? So there's always room for changes that aren't maybe not specifically nullsec, but affect nullsec in a in a particularly huge way, right?
I am firmly of the belief that nullsec is the single most important area of EVE to make it live, to make it be alive. And I think I could agree with the statement. If we could, do you think it's fair to say that CCP needs to have a reasonably clear vision of what they want it to be and then do it?
Well,
I'll go one step further. CCP needs to have a relatively clear vision of what they want nullsec to be, and they need to communicate it.
Yes,
that's what I wanted to say, but I was like, you know what, I'll let Arendis, because he might be onto the same thing, like, because that's always the issue.
Because if they have one idea and we have no idea what the hell it is, we're just going to keep getting more pissed at them.
Because that was the issue with a lot of...
And most of all, if they are overlooking something, and let's not kid ourselves, nullsec is a very complicated thing. So it is easy to overlook something, right?
Look, Soft, nobody is going to put Entosis links on interceptors and just like do one cycle to troll people. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know, right?
But
And
the
no
thing
one's
is,
going to introduce mining ships that can just mine enough to pay for themselves within a few hours, and introduce injectors at the same time.
Yeah. They could, yeah. Oh, good grief.
Totally not a cash grab, folks. Totally not. Wink, wink,
Imagine
wink, wink.
you just think of the conflicting incentives behind wanting people to play the game with just like a couple of accounts and go and play the game like that, but at the same time selling skill injectors and not wanting to make massively boring parallelized PvE. Oh.
I would like to mention that, you know, throughout the the nullsec resource redistribution and you know scarcity kind of era, like that was an era where CCP clearly had an idea, or at least you know the higher ups in CCP clearly had an idea as to what they wanted, you know, like nullsec and to sort of look like, or at least the sort of the larger sort of ecosystem of the game to kind of look like. But they just didn't want to, you know, they didn't want to communicate that to us. And
Look,
as we found out, as we got drip fed information about it, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Matt,
I need to interject here real quick.
They had a plan, but they couldn't tell us the plan, because if we knew the plan, then we'd know the plan, and they'd have to change the plan.
Not that we will know the plan anyway. But anyway, I need to interject here with something very, very important. Fluffer, this is an intervention. You have a problem. We have all been seeing it, and we are very sad that you keep drifting down and down to basically feed your addiction for injectors. We really want you to stop because we like you as a person. And
we love you very much.
Yeah, we don't want you to end up on the street because you keep ramming injectors into your veins.
Hold on, we don't know what he's doing. Is he addicted
No, don't worry.
to consuming them, or is he addicted to farming them?
He has it under control. He's all good. He's all good. He has it
He
under
can
control.
extract anytime he wants.
I was about to be like, yeah.
Right.
I can quit anytime I want, man.
Isn't it a lot like? Aren't injectors using injectors? Aren't they a lot like, certain drugs that mean that you have to keep taking more of it to get the same hit as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's literally built into the mechanics of the thing.
Hey, do you know what? There's another CCP conflict of interest, and that is both the fact that they make money from selling injectors and know that the Magic 14 are a boring set of skills that people have to train nonetheless. It's like, all right, do you hate these skills, or are they making you too much money?
At least we don't have the learning skills anymore. Okay?
Don't have them sort of be tempted to bring in fucking learning, like training skills again.
Oh, don't. Good grief. And you know what? I mean, CCP has in public in recent years not said this is when we're doing it, but they have stated their intent is to, well, they say remove attributes. I mean, realistically, that just means hiding them and leveling them all to the same level so that they don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
That would be a lovely skill thing to please just happen. Please just level the attributes and then hide them forever from the game. Pretend they don't exist. Can we just do it?
It's just one of these needless convolutions to the game, right?
I want to go the other way.
Clone grades. Do you remember clone grades?
Oh, fucking
yes.
Yeah.
Can we please bring them back?
Fuck it.
I want clone upgrades to come back because I would
like different clone grades available as well, but I don't want them the old way.
No. Let's bring them back, but only for boat. You can't believe the sheer joy that the
oh my god,
has.
Guys! I lost FC5 again.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's so
you
fucking
know,
hilarious.
there are some people out there who say, "Oh, clone grades, it's just making EV easy by getting rid of them." But realistically, clone grades were just a punishment for having played the game for a long time.
They were, but
Yeah,
they were
well,
interestingly also an ISK sync as well.
Yeah, that's the other
Well,
big thing. Is
they were an ISK, but you know, you can just up taxes or things like that, you know, or you can have new things that require you give ISK to get something out of it. But
yeah, but
you know,
the thing is
it was just like it's just like, don't you, as you grow older, don't you dare lose ships and then pods,
Right.
because we're going to punish you for PvPing more and more as you get older and older.
So what I'd like to see them do is, like, I'd like to see something like a clone grade beta where the skill cap is raised and there's a wider assortment of skills you can get to, and it costs you less a month than alpha. Like, so it's basically just a mid-tier subscription model.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where you were going with that.
What you mean, like a subscription level between alpha and omega?
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is that would essentially just lose money, because people subscribe a lot of us subscribe alts to do relatively low end stuff. I mean, I subscribe an alt that for 99% of its time does probing rather than flying a jump freighter, you know.
Here's the thing.
If I could pay less for it to still just keep probing, I would, and CCP would have essentially just lost money. What I'd really like them to do is just lower the price a bit of Omega so that a few more people can subscribe.
Well, that's just it, though. Would it lose the money, or would they get more subscriptions?
Well, how many alts do you have that you subscribe to the game?
It's also a question as to whether you make that payment to be something that actually you have to pay for, or whether it's an ISK payment.
It depends on how much less.
It's the same thing. It essentially ends up as the same thing. Units of real world currency or units of Plex that you are consuming.
I mean, so Phantomite, I know you're not. I know you're not suggesting what I think you just sort of suggested, but like, it's not the same thing, because you can't extract ISK out into money and then use that to pay for stuff.
No.
Whereas if it's an in-game thing that you actually pay ISK for, then you can use it like
hold on.
Real
Somebody
money
paid
and
real money for that Plex. Somebody paid real money for that.
No,
Plex.
that is true. Yeah,
it is the same thing, because in both cases, as far as CCP is concerned, remember, Plex does not count as income for CCP until the Plex goes away.
Yeah,
that's the way they handle their accounting on that.
Yeah.
So.
What I was saying is, if the
it's a deferred income.
If the sort of like the mid-tier kind of subscription was, you know, a monetary sort of thing per month rather than ISK or Plex, you know, then, you know, they wouldn't be losing money, they would be gaining money. It'll just be a case of like it's a mid-tier kind of a subscription for real money.
The assumption,
you know, that sort of thing.
The assumption that as a result, more people would subscribe than people who degraded their accounts to the lower status.
Yeah.
Right. You might be right, but I'm saying that it's not an insignificant danger that it would just make.
Right. That specialized
it would just cut
that
income.
Right now are subscribed would drop to the lower one. Like your probing alt, for example. Like, I can see keeping certain, like I say, it's not like open everything up, but just certain skills. Like, you wouldn't want Sinos to be available on anything but you know, the full-fledged freaking Omega, because, you know.
So what are we calling this? We're calling this beta.
Why not? Just step up for alpha.
What extra thing should a beta subscriber get over an alpha?
Oh, you know.
I mean, that's a very real question, right?
Yeah, I know.
So should it be ISK generation stuff? Like, should it be sort of like money making stuff?
I'd have to go back and look exactly at what an alpha doesn't get right now.
Here's an idea. Should such accounts exclusively be available only for real money payments, and you're not allowed to Plex into beta status?
See, that gets into a dangerous area of, you know, whether you're actually paying for, if it's just payments and you can't actually Plex it, then you're running
you can
you're
still
running
flex
into.
it. It just goes full Omega.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because
So
I was wondering whether
you
you'd
can not
be in
pay.
that potential area of pay to win, but that wouldn't be
Well,
an
so
issue.
right now you can not pay and not plex, and you can be alpha.
Yeah.
Or you could pay or plex or a mixture, and you can be Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Should the beta be exclusively pay real money as your method of obtaining it?
Or should it be exclusively Plex? I mean, because keep in mind,
Well, exclusively Plex is
and the reason
both
I say
plexing and subscribing in one go. It just adds an extra complicated step
Right,
for people
and
who
I
could just give CCP straight money.
right, I recognize that, but also keep in mind that because using Plex does let CCP take some of the deferred payments off the books, that's actually something that they tend to to push more, because it's clearing, it's giving them income that they technically should have already had, and it tends to look better in their quarterly reports.
Well,
like just listening to the calls.
My point is that if it was plexible rather than payable, then it allows those accounts to be considered part of account proliferation, massively parallel PVE. Whereas if it is pay real money only, it has a much harder cap because
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
to be fair, you're
wondering
dodging
which way gets them the most return, and so achieves their goals better. But I could see it going either way, but I think I tend to lean more toward the money. Like, it would be better to just do money, but for the sake of
then beta accounts can't be parallel PVE then.
Well, they can't be parallel PVE, but you're also the other thing is you're also dodging that issue of like pay to win, because it's not as powerful as if you plex an account, right?
But why can't they be parallel?
Well, I mean, if you are a rich person in real life. Oh, has my thing frozen?
A little bit, yeah. I think so.
I think it has. One second. One moment.
It's all good. But I do like that in terms of you don't have that issue.
I don't think that as many people would.
You may need to. I don't know what's the issue with Phantomite's kind of camera, but like
no, I'm still here. It's just my OBS froze.
Right. Okay.
I'm just redoing it.
Like, I don't think you'd see people doing 80 beta mining fleets, obviously, but
Yeah. There you go, Smoking.
Hey, there we go. I mean, we have hugely parallel PVE away from all of the accounts in the same place. We have Ishtars, and we have Gilas, and we have people who are running faction warfare on multiple characters, and they may go to different places at the same time. But one key thing that contributes to people running 5 accounts, 10 accounts, 15 accounts for the purpose of parallel ISK making is the fact that they can pay with ISK.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, for example, that's why I'm suggesting that this theoretical beta account should be money only, not flexible.
Look at us helping CCP financially in the decisions that they
we spent how many years saying they should do alliance skins, and then they managed to not do that properly.
Just as a note here, 15-minute warning, because I know MacLeod likes to waffle. So
waffle? What? I'm always succinct.
Yeah, always.
No, Soth, it's not waffle. It's pancake cat. Come on.
I don't have pancake cat to jump to. Damn it.
Well, you fail, sir.
I don't have it 24/7 on on my computer like Briss does.
I don't know. Can alphas use regular mining barges?
I think so. It's mostly like T2 stuff that generally tends to sort of get, shunted to Omega sort of
I don't
stuff.
remember.
You obviously have a cap in terms of the amount of SP that you can use on an alpha character. But most of it's like, most of the time, if it's T2, you can't use it as an Omega.
Right, yeah. Well, you can't use it as alpha, you mean?
Sorry, yeah, you can't use it as an alpha, sorry. Yeah.
If it's T2, you can't use it as Omega. No, sorry. You paid all this money for unlimited access, so screw you, no T2. Faction or go home.
But alphas can use faction, for sure, as well. And Dead Space, I believe. And I guess technically officer as well.
I mean, technically, faction, like a Phantasm or something is a T1 cruiser. Skills wise, I mean it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I mean, an alpha won't fly it very well, but
Exactly. You're throwing money at the solution.
I think if the supposed theoretical ship limit on a beta account was, as a couple of people in the chat said, just no caps, then we would see just a mass downgrade of people's accounts.
Yeah, that'd be a lot. But no, it looks so. According to the stats that I've got saved, and obviously this might have changed, since I stopped updating my stuff. Alphas can't do mining barges. If that's true, then that one thing, congratulations, your beta can do a mining barge, could incentivize a lot of people to move up to the a little bit.
As long as it was real money only and not flex.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, I don't think it's an inherently
I suppose we should probably
bad idea.
strip miners too, then.
Dangerous.
Though I have to admit, it would be kind of funny to say, yes, you can use mining barges, and not let them use strip miners, and see how long it takes them to figure it out. How much should they make
that would be a cruel thing to do.
How many canceled right away? Just as many.
How many angry posts on Reddit would it produce?
Oh, it'd be great. It would be glorious.
I mean, also, I just realised CCP couldn't really call it a beta account because that comes with connotations of like being a submissive failure. But
because
because building your whole goddamn worldview around really bad and thoroughly discredited studies, that's really the way to go.
Hey, listen.
To be fair, if the things that you're allowed to do on the beta accounts is purely PvE, then it would fit.
I mean, here's another thing. Should a theoretical beta account also have the limitation of you can only be running one Eve client on the computer at a time?
Oh, no.
Okay.
If you're paying for it, no.
Exactly.
Okay. Especially given that we're limiting this to real money only.
Actual money, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you now, let's imagine it was 30% cheaper. I would be downgrading one of my accounts, and I wouldn't be spending any extra money with CCP as a result. Because I pay real money for all my accounts.
For just mining barges?
I don't mind. But
well, then
okay.
I don't see why you'd. I mean, that's the only change we've actually,
I'm saying that I would downgrade one of my accounts, and that money that I saved isn't going to be going to CCP in another method.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Would that be offset by the people who do the stuff that's
the real question.
Would be?
The only thing any of us has is our own personal experience of what we would do with it, and I'm saying that for me, for 1/5 of the people in Discord channel, CCP would be losing money. So would they gain from you guys to make up for it?
Maybe, I don't know.
I'd like 1% of the profits to be split for everybody here. So
keep in mind though that if it's a 30% discount, then they only have to pick up one subscription, a little more than one subscription for
plus
each.
1 Omega to make up for it. To make up for 3 people downgrading.
Wait, what?
take 30% off.
Take 30% off. Okay. So now
3
you're at
accounts
70%.
that downgrade gives you essentially a 90%. Doing it roughly the same. You would need plus 1 Omega character to make up for 3 downgrades.
Right.
Or you would need 1 more extra beta account to make up for 2 downgrades to beta.
Right. Each beta account would give them a net profit off of 2 people downgrading.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's moments like this is how like we develop the Delve Time unit, like literally live on a show. Like we randomly develop this sort of stuff live on occasion during the actual shows. It's great. We have 10 minutes to go, so we should probably like quickly.
It's just theory anyway.
Yeah, it is
Right,
just theory at the end of the day.
And that's assuming it's a 30% discount. Like we don't know where they'd put it. So.
Yeah, I think if, for instance, if they only put 10% off, I think fewer people would do it.
But you know, I will be honest here. If they were to go with this idea, I don't think there's any way they could screw it up. I trust them to do it properly. After all, Rattati's a money guy.
Hey,
do you remember the
the nose is arriving in Germany right now.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the figures, the online figures from when alphas were introduced?
Oh Jesus, no, I don't.
No,
because now a factor here that I should bring in first is that around the same time they also introduced a number of microtransactions, including skill point purchasing and things like that. Well, skill point transfers, consuming flex,
like
essentially skill point purchases.
Alphas went in.
They gained income from that
around the same time as everything.
Well, hold on.
All of the other cash grab stuff.
My point is that see, on one hand, when they introduced alphas, CCP lost a lot of subscribed accounts. And afterward, and we know that because a lot of people went alpha, and at the same time, after the initial burst, the number of people online at the same time remained basically the same, despite alpha now being a thing. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know whether that was tempered enough by the higher consumption and sale and purchase of Plex to do injectors and things like that as well. We don't know. If it didn't
there was certainly
a move.
There was certainly a lot of it, Phantomite, because like I definitely know that there was a huge chunk of players in nullsec who shifted like literally on the spot.
Get Rorquals trained instantly.
Yeah, they literally shifted on the spot to to extract all of the SP that they were using for carrier ranning and pumping that straight into Rorquals.
Well, I mean,
that definitely
when did alphas arrive in the game compared to when Rorquals became a thing?
It was the same patch, I believe.
Same patch.
Are we sure?
Pretty certain. 2017?
Have a look. Huh.
I don't want to go.
Yeah, 2016. Yeah, you're right.
2016.
Yeah, bang on.
Same patch. Bang on. Yeah, it was all part of the same thing because that was.
What a revolution in the incentives in this game, eh?
Yeah.
All in 1 year.
Yeah.
We got citadels, we lost passive moons, we gained Rorquals, we gained a bunch of new abilities and modules for caps. In fact, fundamentally altering the way most capitals worked in the game. We gained alphas, we gained injectors, we all in the same time period. It was an insane amount of things to change in one go.
Nullsec was completely revitalized by the establishment of a whole new set of hate grudges. I mean,
yeah. Anyway, fascinating. It was quite the change. I mean, it's a whole 2-hour conversation for another day. But I think that we need change. I think it's too much in one go to be able to even have a chance of considering the wider implications. Too much in one go.
Oh, that particular patch, yeah, that was insane. Like we're still
2016.
Yeah, in 2016. Like we're
All
still
of
sort of
2016, yeah.
we're still figuring out. Like I don't think people have really figured out the wide ranging significances of the and effects and consequences of the injector and extractor kind of stuff coming in.
It's,
That
I
is,
mean-
that's been huge.
I'll
I'm
give
talking
you-
wider. The whole year of 2016 was too much in one go to be able to pull the levers gently, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, everything since scarcity, Equinox, all of it, everything is aftershocks. All of it has to do with, okay, so we're going to do this, and oh shit, what did that do? Well, we don't know. It hasn't actually settled out yet. Well, I don't care. React before it's done.
You know what? But you know what? What definitely was definite consequences from that was the amount of stuff getting killed and being, like large stuff in space getting killed ramped up significantly.
Yeah, because more people were putting large stuff in space.
Yeah.
Yes, but it also hugely raised the stakes on all sides in terms of. I know you can only hear me at the moment. I've seen it frozen again. Never mind.
Yeah, it's all good.
It also just hugely raised the stakes and requirements for what a superpower looked like. At the same time,
It did, and
It did.
to
So,
some degree, if
on
we
one
went
hand,
back,
It
Yeah.
did, but I think that actually starts beforehand with the introduction of jump fatigue.
By the way, looking at the clock, we
3
should
minutes to
probably
go.
do one last word instead of one last thing.
yes, one last word. Let's do
do
one last
everyone
word.
else first while I fix my camera.
Okay, horrendous. Any one last words that you have
Fuck.
for us? Thought we were keeping this PG. I guess you are allowed a couple of fucks in PG.
I'm sorry. Fark.
Or as the
Felger Carp. There we go. That's sci-fi.
Elder Cart.
there we go. Eric, anything you wish
farting
to add?
messages. All of you.
That's more than one word.
Oh, Phantomite, you got
It's good to
your
be
camera
back.
working? Any final thoughts?
One word, or am I doing a final thought?
You're the guest. You can do a final thought.
You get a whole.
I'm just going to go with one word. I don't have more right than any of the rest of you. I'm going to pick change.
Oh god damn it!
wanna
Eric, we
put
missed
You
on
just
it.
borrowed
totally
that off the
fucked it up.
Labour Party. You're not allowed.
Why does Phantomite's background look like he raided a Sephora store? I'm just saying. All right.
Soth, your last word.
Yes.
Flabbergasted.
That's a good word. Mac, what's your last word?
I don't really have a last word, but what I am
Okay.
going to say is, unfortunately, the meta show is not coming after this show or in an hour's time. Dave has some emergency stuff that he needed to do, but there was a meta show. If you did not notice this, there was a meta show this Wednesday that you should go and check out. It was before the changes that CCP kind of brought up, but they were you had
pretty meta.
you had Asher there, you had Brisk there, you had Shines there, you had Dave there. They were talking about basically Asher's post and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to sort of check that out, it's on the channel, and I believe it's probably also on YouTube now in some way, shape, or form. But there's also a podcast of it where you get your usual podcast stuff. Check that out. But as for us, I think we're pretty much done, right? We're good to go.
Eric, I just want to say that I'm disappointed in you.
Why?
Because I'm disappointed in both of us, really, because we completely fucked it up. Mac gave us the feed on a silver platter, and we didn't go with it. I'm
I
going
am
to say one
disappointed.
word to you, just one word: plastics.
Feed on a silver platter? Is that another OnlyFans thing?
Anyway, that's the show, guys. We're out. Have a good rest of the weekend. See ya.
See you guys.